In fact, US President Donald Trump has just put out a tweet in which he has said that it was an honor to speak with Prime Minister Modi of India this morning. He is one of my greatest friends and a powerful and respected leader of his country. We spoke about many things, including trade and ending the war with Russia and Ukraine. He agreed to stop buying Russian oil and to buy more from the United States. This will help end the war in Ukraine. Out of friendship and respect for Prime Minister Modi, and as per his request, effective immediately, we agreed to a trade deal between the US and India, whereby the US will charge a reduced reciprocal tariff, lowering it from 25% to 18%. They will likewise move forward to reduce their tariffs and non-tariffs barriers against the United States. So it's very clear. The indication has come in. The Prime Minister also committed to buy American at a much higher level, in addition to over $500 billion of US energy and all. The Prime Minister Modi and I are two people that get things done. So the message is clear. We agreed to a trade deal between the US and India, whereby the US will charge a reduced reciprocal tariff, lowering it from 25% to 18%. So a trade deal is through, is the indication, and that is coming in directly from US President Donald Trump. Rohit is joining us from Washington D.C. Rohit, how should this tweet of President Trump be seen? He has posted on Truth Social.
So this is, again, as I was saying earlier, I got two positive messages from within the White House. I got a thumbs up and I got another great smiley that said finger crossed, things will happen. We're trying to break down this essentially. I'm trying to get more details onto does this mean that the 25% punitive tariffs are off? And then are they removing those reciprocal tariffs from 25% to 18%, effectively lowering the tariffs to 18%. So I think that's the confirmation I'm trying to get right now, Marya. But as we were anticipating, as the sources had confirmed both here in Washington D.C., in the White House, and Pranay was talking to somebody, and you were talking to somebody at the PMO. This is a big deal. I think the President Trump has finally, he was tweeting, and he was trying to make sure that there is a setup to when he announces this. As I was saying, there's another 3:30 p.m. Signing ceremony. We do not know what that is, but he's gone ahead and announced it in total Trump, fashion, talking about that India is going to be, again, purchasing less oil, purchasing energy from the US, and then he's reducing this reciprocal tariff from 25% to 18%. We're just trying to understand, does that also include removing those 25% punitive tariffs that were put on India and then reducing the initial reciprocal tariff, which is what it looks like, from 25% to 18%, Marya?
Okay, so Raj, how are you looking at this? Because there's no clarity whether the 25% punitive tariff, which was 25% plus 25%, putting it around 50% in all for India, the total tariff, that there's no clarity whether that 25% punitive tariff has been removed. He has said that there is lowering of reciprocal tariff from 25% to 18%. How should this be seen then, Raj?
Well, let's wait for more clarification from there. But let's also say that this is really big news. This is a big bang thing that's happened. Good for India that this has happened after so much waiting. This was something that India was hoping that would happen. And if he's reduced it from 25% to 18%, that's the first victory. Second victory would, of course, getting the 25% off the Russian tariff that, for us importing Russian oil, if that goes, then that's really, really big stuff that's happened. Very, very important because let's not forget, US is our largest trading partner. And if this tariff issue gets out of the way, we have had a great relationship with America for the last 20 years, built it over that. We can see a lot of restoration of that. Right now, there's a lot of distrust that had happened in the past in 2025. If this is going to happen, and we can see that President Trump, as he famously does, has tweeted it, which means things are going to happen You're right, we need that clarification about the 25%, but I think it's going to be coming because he's talked of Venezuela. There seems to be a deal on that we would not be importing Russian oil. Instead, we would pick up a certain amount of Venezuela oil as well as, make sure we get some American oil that we're doing. Notice, Marya, that we had reduced in December the amount of oil that we were importing from Russia. There were big signals that were coming. We also, not only in the budget where we reduced the duties for importing of nuclear stuff, nuclear material of whatever kind, equipment and others, not the plutonium or any of the hot stuff, but yes, we have reduced tariff on all that, and we have signed what is called the G Shanti G bill, which opens the entire thing, not just for private sector, the entire nuclear sector that was very protected in the past, not just to Indian private sector, but to American private sector and other countries as well. And remember, Marya, just a bit of history, 1998, we do the nuclear test. There was a lot of trouble that happened.
That's right.
And then we signed the nuclear deal. And one of the things of the nuclear deal is we will buy some nuclear power stations from or power equipment from the US. That hasn't fructified with G Shanti bill that has happened, G Ram G bill, that is now going to change the entire thing. Sorry, this is G Shanti, the other one.
Yes. G Ramji is Manrega.
Manrega, yes.
That's
sorry.
right. Let me bring in Pranay Upadhyay now. So Pranay, okay, Donald Trump says, US President says that the trade deal between India and US have been agreed upon is what Rohit come in now, is being said by Donald Trump. Of course, we'll wait for what has been agreed upon and what is being said by the Indian side. We have seen in the past, Donald Trump has taken to Truth Social to make multiple announcements, but we have to wait for clarity and more details to emerge from our side, which is the Indian side. Perhaps the Minister of External Affairs and the Prime Minister's office will be giving us some details of how the talks have proceeded and what was the nature of conversation, what did Prime Minister Modi communicate to Donald Trump. But what has been put out by US President is that the US will charge a reduced reciprocal tariff, lowering it from 25% to 18%. Rohit, the first indication was, and that was being anticipated and read in multiple circles in New Delhi, that first step would be doing away with the punitive tariff because of India buying Russian oil. That 25%, there's no clarity on that. And then only we'll be looking at this 25% being reduced to 18% now. You have to unmute yourself, Rohit.
Apologies, I'm trying to do too many things at the same time. So yes, it is the reciprocal tariffs, right, which was 25%, that has been reduced to 18%. And we do not have a clear answer if they've also removed the punitive tariffs that obviously were put on because India is still buying oil from Russia. So what I am picking up right now is this is an incremental progress is what I've been told. As soon as India starts purchasing oil from America, I think those 25% punitive tariffs will also go away. But this is a clear indication that that's where we're headed with this. They are saying that this is the reciprocal tariffs. That was 25%. I mean, other countries, and I'll give you an example of Pakistan, probably it has it at 19%. So India is at 18%. And then once India starts buying more energy oil from the US, Venezuela, which is what President Trump has said multiple times, I think that's when those punitive tariffs will go away. Again, we have to wait and watch, but at least that is the understanding right here in Washington, D.C., that the reciprocal tariffs has been reduced to 18%. No official word on those 25% punitive tariffs. But again, this is I'm quoting from a source, this is an iterative process. We're making great progress here. Those reciprocal tariffs have been reduced, and we will see at what happens with those punitive tariffs. Marya.
Okay. Pranay, just few hours ago, Elon Musk had famously put out that tweet, which was also referred to by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman during the course of one of our interactions yesterday, that the balance of power is changing, and how China, which is growing at 26.6%, I mean, that's their contribution to the global GDP, and India is second at 17%. So between China and India, the total is around 43%. That is the level of their contribution to the global GDP numbers, the GDP growth, the real GDP growth. So, this is a market that nobody can afford to ignore either.
Absolutely, Marya. India is an important player in the global politics and especially in the geoeconomics. And there is a big constituency in Washington and it's Washington D.C. or be it in the United States, which actually feels that India is a strategic partner. U.S. has, India has enjoyed a bipartisan support at the Capitol, and in fact, both the administrations of Republican parties and Democratic parties have invested a lot in building of this relationship. And we have seen that how President Donald Trump has also maintained that we want to even out the trade balance, we want to work out certain things, but he never ignored the fact that he enjoys a very good relation with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He also underscored every time whenever he was asked about India or the importance of India-US relation, he always maintained that India is a valuable relation and a partnership for the United States. So clearly there is an acknowledgement, there is an understanding, and this understanding is shared by many corporates in the United States, because you have to see which other country on the planet can give you a 100+ fighter jet order. So clearly, India in terms of potential, India in terms of the numbers, India in terms of the market access is a huge market US would want to have. And if US would want to balance the geopolitics here, India is a strategic partner they would want to have on their side, rather than let India tilt towards the China or toward any other access for that matter. If President Donald Trump want to work out an arrangement where they want to have a power competition with China and they want to build a stronger relationship, a stronger stronger partnership, then it is advisable and it is in all prudence to have India on its side. And I think India's recent FTAs have also played a crucial role, Marya, here, because I think India's conclusion of FTA with United Kingdom, India's conclusion of FTA with EU, with greater market access and with fantastic terms, has also left their impact in the decision-making process of the United States. And I think that's why President Donald Trump seems to be taking an off-ramp here.
Yes, so Gaurav Sawant also joins us. Gaurav, the indication is that India and US have agreed to reduce the reciprocal tariff from 25% to 18%. Of course, we'll get more details from the Indian side. That's likely to come in the next few minutes as well. But, India, like always, doing a trade deal on its own terms. Realizing fully well that there was an unpredictable leader in the White House. The Prime Minister had clearly said that he opened up newer markets for the Indian industries or Indian businessmen. And, we moved, in the last 1.5 years alone, Gaurav, close to 6 free trade agreements inked.
But this is great news, great news. Der hai, durust hai. Of course, we'll wait for the fine print. We'll wait to hear what the External Affairs Ministry has to say about this. But tremendous work put in by Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, Commerce Secretary Mr. Agrawal, and their entire team, because this was real hard-nosed negotiations. We've been tracking this very closely, multiple rounds. In fact, I reported from Washington, D.C. on Donald Trump's inauguration. And then subsequently, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the United States in February, and that compact that was inked between India and the United States, it was a very comprehensive compact where there were 3 major legs to this relationship. The trade deal, yes, by end of the year, it was planned 2025. Second part was technology. The third part was defense. So high-end technology and trade, great cooperation. Defense, to a very large extent, great cooperation, though India still is waiting for the GE404 engines, and we hope that's not delayed anymore because that's holding back India's LCA. And of course, the trade aspect. July onwards, our sources in the government were telling us that this deal was almost done. It was on Trump's table, but Trump wanted more. He wanted to see how much can he push India and whether, like other countries, look, Trump has offended his closest treaty allies. Look at the way he's treated countries like Japan and Korea. Look at the way he's treated the United Kingdom. But India did not buckle under pressure. As you very rightly pointed out, Marya, India wanted a trade deal which would be fair, which would be equitable, and which will be good for both countries, because it is for the betterment of both countries. And do keep in mind, Indo-Pacific is not just India's concern; it is also U.S. concerns. But Donald Trump tried to ignore it. He tried to get closer to Pakistan, even though Trump and Trump 1.0 had called Pakistan that they'd looted $33 billion. But let's sincerely hope that the relationship returns on an even keel.
Okay, Rohit Sharma, some more details coming in from any of your sources. Have you sent more messages? Have they responded? Some details?
That's the last thing I have, Maria. It is an iterative process. This is reduction in reciprocal tariff. I think it's going to make a lot of people in India happy. Especially, I think there's also a message here, and I think a very subtle message, which I was trying to point out, Maria, before, is that we are at 18%, which is less than what the neighbors would be paying. And I think it's an important message that President Trump is trying to say. We've all seen those images of the Pakistanis talking about they have a deal and this and that. But I think President Trump was able to give India that small victory in a sense. And then the process about, let's India starts buying oil from American companies, be it Venezuela, wherever. I think those reciprocal tariffs would then obviously, sorry, my bad, the punitive tariffs would then obviously go away. There's also E.M. Jaishankar, as we were talking about. He is going to be in town tomorrow. He's in New York right now. He's coming to Washington, D.C. He's going to be participating in the Critical Minerals Summit. So we'll probably hear more about what the next steps would look like. But the big thing is, I think we've made a great progress on this. We will be at 18% once those 25% punitive tariffs go away. And I think this is what I think everybody was wanting to happen for the longest time. Remember, it was last year in February when the Prime Minister was here, and they had announced that we would get a trade deal in less than 3 weeks, is what President Trump wanted to do. But less than a year, it took almost a year, but just less than a shy of a year, we finally have something with the Americans. And as Gaurav was pointing out, I think now we can all hope the relationship will go back to how it was prior to 2025.
In fact, now we'll wait for the response to come in from India side. Karishma Asudani is also joining us. But before I bring in Karishma, I want to understand from you, Pranay, should we be expecting a response to come in from the Prime Minister's office? In fact, it was the Prime Minister who, President Donald Trump has put out that tweet. So will there be a tweet coming in from Prime Minister Modi? We'll wait and see how it plays out in the next 25 to 30 minutes. But Karishma, the negotiators that traveled, that is the Commerce Secretary and others, they were hoping for a trade deal. There were certain areas that were, stuck. But finally, it looks like that it's all's well that ends well. But how well and how soon is still not clear. Although Donald Trump has given enough indication that the trade deal has been perhaps inked or sealed around 18% tariffs.
Mara, the big question, in fact, very rhetoric in nature, is something that you've already put across. If the trade deal is next, because we've had about, say, 5 rounds of negotiations already. Good news that the tariffs have come down from 25% to 18%, but too early to celebrate because we still have the punitive 25% tariffs, which are pretty high, and they still keep some kind of pressure and a hard blow to our exporters in the country. But good news in a way that this definitely brings back the situation on talking table where both the parties are looking forward. This is some kind of softening the cushion from the United States of America, and I want to very subtly put that out. Is it because of the EU trade deal that the metrics and the dynamics have now changed, where India actually gets back with its first mover advantage?
Yes, I would agree with you. That European Union trade deal, which is being said as mother of all deals, which Prime Minister Modi said was the deal of global good, has put a lot of pressure and has a lot of countries worried and watching, Raj. You speak to the Indian side and they were hoping that things would move faster now that having Prime Minister Modi and European Union Commission President here in India and Madam Ursula speaking to Prime Minister Modi, the bonhomie that was on display, everything, the optics was right, and of course, they got the deal right as well.
Marya, listening to what Rohit, our colleague in US, said and saying this is an iterative thing, and he's not very clear whether the punitive Russian tariff, the tariffs for us importing Russian oil of 25% is going to be lifted. Now, if that doesn't happen, then yes, it's back to Trump doing the art of the deal in the sense we are down by 7% if you take off that 25% down to 18%. So we're still paying 43% tariff. And he said it is concomitant on India importing Venezuelan oil and probably American oil as well. So we need to see that aspect of it. And while getting the trade deal done is really, really big, just a word of caution on a lot of these things. Let's not forget that Donald Trump is highly mercantile, can change things very quickly if we don't follow it. And we've seen that happen to many countries where suddenly they've been reimposed with high tariffs. Second, there are inherent tensions in this whole game that is happening. And one is, he's got a very strong policy about immigration. And that hurts us because not only on the H-1B side, where he's reducing the numbers, even in terms of the fact that the opportunities for Indians who are settled there is going to shrink a lot more than what we had expected, before he came to power. And then the relationship with China. Where will that go and how much of that leverage? Earlier, we always were seen as a bulwark to China. That he's upended and he's doing deals directly with it. So with Donald Trump, you have to go day by day, watch it. I think the good news, and that's really great news, if the trade deal is finally agreed upon, we need to watch what he's going to do on the Russian punitive action that he's taken on us. And then see, as the months progress on immigration, the promises that we have been having in terms of critical technology and emerging technology that's there, all the various deals that we had signed before with President Biden as well as with Donald Trump in his first term, will all that come together, or will we see this kind of shifting thing here and there? Everything becomes a bargaining chip. That's something we need to look forward. A word of caution, while even as we begin to celebrate in case, for instance, he lifts the Russian punitive action as well that is taken.
As we wait for further details, Raj, perhaps the Indian side is also being very, very careful in sending in what is the messaging that will be going from the India side. Karishma, have you managed to get any of the negotiators to give you some details of what has been the final talk like, and how much of this should be seen on the face value and what has been finally agreed upon?
Marya, no official word that has come in yet from India's Commerce Ministry, but sources tell us that they're waiting to officially analyze this. A communication is yet to be sent to them. While it has been put on social media, one of the social media platforms by President Trump, it is only when it comes in writing, in black and white, that the ministry officials will be able to decode it. Because I want to get to what Raj was saying, that with President Trump's announcements, every day is a new day and every day is a new announcement. So we do not really know how will this be taken up when it's sent in by the administration, and what are the contours of this reduction. So I would still say slightly early to celebrate.
Okay, so we'll wait. We are all waiting for details to emerge, which could come perhaps before this broadcast will end. Daniel Block, Senior Editor, Foreign Affairs, is joining us from New York. But before I bring him in, a word from you, Gaurav. What are you picking up?
So even as we wait for the Ministry of External Affairs, politics on the subject is already escalating. The Congress Party once again is saying that why is it that we are hearing of this from American president, and now it's almost become a routine. Whatever happens, we hear first from the American president and later from the Ministry of External Affairs. Jairam Ramesh, there's a message of his on social media platform. In the past also, if you notice, whether it was conversations about the Venezuelan oil, or that India is not to buy any more Russian oil, or words to that effect, a lot of information was put out by the Americans first, or Operation Sindoor, as the Congress Party has repeatedly been targeting the government, that the conversation on ceasefire happened from the American side first, and then by the Indian side. The Ministry of External Affairs, when it comes to Donald Trump specifically, everything is checked and rechecked. Marya, you know well that when Ministry of External Affairs says something, or when Government of India says something, they want to be doubly sure about everything. And the External Affairs Minister is in the United States of America right now. Will we have to wait, for things to be one more clear? only then will we get to hear this. We're still waiting to hear. But in case Trump is indicating that India is stopped by Russian oil, and if that is truly the case, then those punitive 25% needs to go as quickly as possible. And be that if the case, then why has it not been mentioned just as yet? So perhaps those are clarifications that we are still seeking.
Okay, so soon after, Donald Trump put out a tweet. In fact, US Ambassador to India, Ambassador Gore, has put out another detail on his Twitter handle. He has said, as I've said many times, President Trump genuinely considers Prime Minister Modi a great friend. Thrilled by the news of the trade deal this evening, the relationship between the United States and India has limitless potential.